We are taking you live to Minneapolis, where city officials are holding a briefing after federal officers shot and killed a person.
My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N, O''H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. At approximately 9:03 a.m. this morning, Minneapolis police received a report of a shooting involving federal law enforcement in the area of East 26th Street and Nicollet Avenue on the south side of the city. Officers arrived and found an adult male with multiple gunshot wounds when they arrived. Life-saving aid was being rendered, and he was transported by ambulance to Hennepin County Medical Center, where he was later pronounced deceased. Based on the information that we have, which is very limited, this is a 37-year-old white male who is a Minneapolis resident, and we believe he is an American citizen. We have not been told any official reports of what has led up to the shooting, but we have seen the video that is circulating on social media. Our demand today is for those federal agencies that are operating in our city to do so with the same discipline, humanity, and integrity that effective law enforcement in this country demands. We urge everyone to remain peaceful. We recognize that there is a lot of anger and a lot of questions around what has happened, but we need people to remain peaceful. In the area, we have an unlawful assembly at this time. Minneapolis police have given multiple warnings for the crowd to disperse. We are asking for people to avoid the area and to leave if you are there. We have requested mutual aid from the Minnesota State Patrol and from all our local and county regional partners. We ask everyone to remain calm and to please do not destroy our own city.
I just saw a video of more than 6 masked agents pummeling one of our constituents and shooting him to death. How many more residents, how many more Americans need to die or get badly hurt for this operation to end? How many more lives need to be lost before this administration realizes that a political and partisan narrative is not as important as American values? How many times must local and national leaders must plead with you, Donald Trump, to end this operation and recognize that this is not creating safety in our city? As you'll hear from Director Sayre in just a second, we have seen these kinds of operations in other places, in other countries, but not here in America. Not in a way where a great American city is being invaded by its own federal government. I'm done being told that our community members are responsible for the vitriol in our streets. I'm done being told that our local elected officials are solely responsible for turning down the temperature. Just yesterday, we saw 15,000 people peacefully protesting in the streets, speaking out, standing up for their neighbors. Not a single broken window, not a single injury. Those peaceful protests embody the very principles that both Minneapolis and America was founded upon. Conversely, the mass militarized force and unidentified agents who are occupying our streets, that is what weakens our country. That is what erodes trust in both law enforcement and in democracy itself. So to everyone listening, stand with Minneapolis. Stand up for America. Recognize that your children will ask you what side you were on. Your grandchildren will ask you what you did to act to prevent this from happening again, to make sure that the foundational elements of our democracy were rock solid. What did you do to protect your city? What did you do to protect your nation? This is not what America is about. This is not a partisan issue. This is an American issue. This administration and everyone involved in this operation should be reflecting. They should be reflecting right now and asking themselves, what exactly are you accomplishing? If the goal was to achieve peace and safety, this is doing exactly the opposite. If the goal was to achieve calm and prosperity, this is doing exactly the opposite. Are you standing up for American families right now, or are we tearing them apart? The invasion of these heavily armed masked agents roaming around on our streets of Minneapolis, emboldened with a sense of impunity, it has to end. This is not how it has to be. So, to President Trump, this is a moment to act like a leader. Put Minneapolis, put America first in this moment. Let's achieve peace. Let's end this operation, and I'm telling you, our city will come back. Safety will be restored. We're asking for you to take action now to remove these federal agents. Director Sayre.
My name is Rachel Sayre, and I am the Director of the Emergency Management Department for the City of Minneapolis. I took this job to keep us safe because I live here, and this is my community. We are doing everything we can to mitigate the impacts of this terrible situation. The city's Emergency Operations Center continues to be activated, as it has throughout the surge in federal agents over the last few weeks. We are tracking impacts and coordinating the city's response to this situation, which is having profound repercussions in our community. I can't underscore enough how much Operation Metro Surge is impacting our city. Families with loved ones detained and those who are afraid to be in public lest they become targets need help accessing the most basic necessities like food, housing, and rides to school. Businesses are shuttering and our local economy is severely impacted, which means families are suffering, just as we were rounding a corner in our recovery. Many of our Minneapolis residents, my neighbors, my friends, my community members, are ceasing participation in public life, afraid to even go to the doctor. In response, the city enterprise continues to utilize our entire emergency apparatus. That means staff across departments, often around the clock, are putting their regular jobs on hold in order to respond to the impacts of Metro Surge. I want everyone to know there are numerous resources available to community members right now. We have mental health help available. We have food assistance, housing and rental assistance, legal help. We are sharing information about what to do if you are exposed to tear gas, pepper spray, or other chemical agents, and the state AGs and ACLU are collecting reports of rights violations. You can access these resources on the city's virtual resource center at minneapolismn.gov/ICE. Please share this information with your neighbors. We have help and we want you to be able to access that. My background is in international humanitarian response in conflict zones in Yemen, Haiti, Syria, Iraq, and Ukraine. What I've seen here is what I've seen there. A powerful entity violently and intentionally terrorizing people, making them afraid to go outside so they can't earn a living, so that kids are forced out of school. This has a lasting generational impact. People can't plan a single day of their lives because they don't know who is around the corner and if their family member or neighbor is about to be taken away. In these times, you see both the best and the worst. The worst is the terror and the feeling of helplessness. The best is will continue to be our community's response. The way we are showing up for each other, that is in the absolute worst of times. We're showing up for each other in the absolute worst of times. I'll turn it back to the mayor. Thank you.
We'll open it to questions.
We are seeing an incredible volatile situation unfolding right now around that scene. Is there any communication right now between local and federal law enforcement or cooperation, or where do those efforts stand to try to calm what's going on down there right now?
Yeah. I'll turn it to the chief to answer.
So the question was, there is an incredibly volatile scene in South Minneapolis right now, and the extent of communication with law enforcement agencies. We have established a command post that is led by Minneapolis Police, and there are representatives from all of the regional, local, county, and state organizations. We have had communication with Homeland Security, but they have not been able to provide us any specific details around the incident itself. We are responsible for ensuring the safety of people on the streets of our city, and we are doing everything that we can to maintain the peace right now, led by Minneapolis Police, but with the help of the Minnesota State Patrol, Hennepin and Ramsey County Sheriffs. Several suburban towns are in the city helping us with 911 calls. We have done an emergency recall of all sworn personnel back to duty. And we are working with the fire department right now to ensure that 2 small fires that were started in the area are safely extinguished. But again, we need everyone to avoid the area if possible. And the people who are in the area, we understand your frustrations. This is not sustainable. But we need people to leave the area at this time.
Is the National Guard involved?
We have communicated with the National Guard. They have been on standby for several days, and we have ensured the National Guard, as well as all of the local law enforcement partners, are aware of the situation.
Chief and Mayor, if I can ask you, this is a statement from Tricia McLaughlin, spokesperson for DHS. She said in her statement, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, seen here, they showed a picture of it. The officers attempted to disarm the suspect, but the armed suspect violently resisted. More details on the armed struggle are forthcoming. Fearing for his life and the lives and safety of fellow officers, an agent fired defensive shots. Medics on the scene immediately delivered medical aid. Is that what happened?
So Minneapolis Police, the question was, you read a statement from DHS saying that a weapon was presented and there was attempts to disarm the person. Again, like I stated earlier, Minneapolis Police, as well as our supervisors, our watch commander, responded to the scene. We were not provided any public safety statement around the incident, what happened. We have since seen a video that is circulating online, like thousands of other people have at this time. So we do not know what happened prior to the recording that is online right now. I immediately called for the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension to respond, to conduct an investigation. They are on the scene. I believe the FBI is on the scene as well. But I think the video speaks for itself. What I can tell you is we have identified this person, 37-year-old white male, resident of the city. The only interaction that we are aware of with law enforcement has been for traffic tickets, and we believe he is a lawful gun owner with a permit to carry.
Chief, can you clarify, was MPD cut out of this investigation? Has the BCA been cut out like we've seen from the 2 previous shootings?
The question was, has MPD been cut out of the investigation, and has the BCA been cut out? As I stated, I immediately requested the BCA to respond. It's my understanding that they are on the scene. I have not heard anything otherwise. There was initially some information was relayed to me over the radio that our officers were told that they were either not needed or could leave, and I gave a direct order to ensure that Minneapolis Police maintain the scene as well as other state and local law enforcement.
Can you talk about the discrepancy?
Do you know whether it was multiple officers involved in the shooting or one officer? Do you know their whereabouts? Are they in custody at all or still on the scene?
So the question was is there multiple officers involved in the shooting? That is the preliminary information. That is our understanding, that it was more than one law enforcement officer involved in the discharge. And again, There is public video that shows several law enforcement officers in a scuffle with someone.
Can you talk about the discrepancy? Initial reports said that the victim here was 51 years old. The information that you have, where's that from?
So the question was, the initial reports said the victim was 51. The information that I have is we sent Minneapolis police officers to the hospital with the individual who was shot, and they have since identified that person.
Two more questions.
Do you have a name of the individual who was shot?
I do, and I'm not releasing it.
Are you able to talk? Have you been able to talk with top ICE and Border Patrol officials to ask them to please be in on this, or have you talked to them, or have you been rejected?
The question was, have we talked with federal law enforcement to be in on this? We have had conversations with Homeland Security Investigations this morning. We are told they do not have any information to share at this time, but we will attempt to maintain those communications going forward.
Do you believe that they have no information to share at this time?
The question was, do I believe that they have no information to share at this time? I don't know if the individual that we were in contact with would or not. This is a Saturday morning. And just like it was for us, it was a scramble to do an emergency recall and to get people to the scene.
All right, thank you guys. We'll have more information if we get any later throughout the day.
We've just been listening to a press conference that was held in Minneapolis seconds ago. We heard from the mayor, Jacob Frey. We heard from just now from the police chief, Brian O'Hara. He's the chief of Minneapolis Police Department. He gave us some information we didn't have prior to that press conference, namely that the victim is a 37-year-old white male, has been identified by police, although they did not give a name. He didn't have a criminal record and wasn't known to police authorities other than for traffic tickets. What you're watching right now is the live scene in Minneapolis. As the police chief told us, there is a very tense situation in southern Minneapolis. So if you're just joining us, the situation is as follows. About 90 minutes to 2 hours ago, federal agents shot and killed an individual in Minneapolis. Here's the video from the incident.
They killed him? Did they kill that guy? Are you kidding me, dude? Not again. Are you kidding me? That guy's dead.
Now that shooting comes just weeks after a federal officer had shot and killed Renee Nicole Good, a 37-year-old that was in her car earlier this month. And that sparked widespread protests and criticism of the federal operation. Thousands of people have been demonstrating in recent days, demanding federal immigration agents leave the city, a request that was just reiterated by the mayor of Minneapolis. Now, federal agents used tear gas and pepper spray to disperse protesters at the scene where the shooting took place. Tensions have been high in the city since the Trump administration deployed agents to crack down on undocumented immigrants more than 6 weeks ago. Al Jazeera's Heidi Zhou-Castro is following this from Washington, D.C. Heidi, let's try and bring our viewers up to speed on everything that we're finding out. This is still a very rapidly developing situation. You're monitoring from Washington. Can you piece together what happened, what we know about what happened?
Yes. So we have three sources of information for that. We have the Department of Homeland Security, who put out a statement. They say that Border Patrol agents were conducting what they called a targeted operation against an undocumented immigrants when this man, who now the police chief says was a 37-year-old man from Minneapolis, the DHS says that he approached officers, quote, with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The videos that we've been showing don't appear to capture that specific moment. So there's still a lot of uncertainty. Was he holding it? Was it on his person? The police chief seems to believe that he was a lawful gun owner and had a right to carry this weapon. But according to the federal agent's statement, officers attempted to disarm this man and he, quote, violently resisted. And that's when an agent, quote, who feared for his life, fired defensive shots. Going back to the video of the incident, you can hear at least 10 shots being fired. At one point, it wasn't clear who was shooting at whom, but according to the DHS statement, it does appear that these were fired by a Border Patrol agent, and the man was pronounced dead shortly after.
Heidi,
the
pause
situation
for a second.
continues to develop.
Pause for a second, because the narrative around what happened is going to be crucial, right? There was a killing already earlier this month, and then we saw a battle of narratives about why the person in her car was killed. And she had an altercation with an ICE agent, so that's an Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement agent. She was in her car. She starts to drive away, and the critics of ICE said, well, they shot because she was a threat. But most people, including the mayor of Minneapolis, say, I'm watching this video, she was not a threat to ICE. So there was this battle of narratives. Now, we don't have all the information yet, but we have what seems like, once again, a battle of two radically different stories. Because you just told us DHS is saying that they felt their life was in danger. But the video that we have, and the one that we've seen, and it's in the top right corner of our screen right now for our viewers, and more are probably going to surface, the video that we have does not show, or at least we can't see, somebody who is threatening the life of the federal agents. Am I right about that?
I think you're absolutely right, and it's important to be clear on what we don't know. But as in the killing of Renee Good, the woman who was shot by ICE agents fatally, we saw more and more videos trickle out. And most importantly will be whether these Border Patrol agents were wearing body cameras, because that may have the truth there. But exactly as you said, already this narrative is being spun. In fact, that DHS statement I was reading to you from that described the sort of timeline of what happened also diverged from just giving the narrative, instead also saying, I'm going to actually scroll to that exact part of this narrative, saying, quote, this looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement. Again, that's what they said, the Department of Homeland Security, in their statement just hours after this unfolded. And it certainly harkens back to when they said Renee Good was a, quote, domestic terrorist shortly after she was killed by federal law enforcement, and neither of these cases have been fully investigated. And that also, looking forward, we're also seeing a history repeated, in the sense that already we heard the local authorities saying how important it is currently to allow local investigators to secure the scene, to preserve crime evidence, and to be part of this investigation of this man who was just killed today by Border Patrol agents, because notably they made the same request for when Renee Good was killed on January 7th, and they've been denied. And that investigation continues only in the hands of the federal government. And that is the conflict here that makes this situation so truly dangerous for the people of Minneapolis, who are caught in the middle. And you heard the mayor there making an impassioned plea, telling the rest of the country, everyone, he said, who was listening to this message, to stand up for Minneapolis. He said that the people's children and grandchildren will be looking back at this moment to see where they fall in history. And he called out the Trump administration, saying that it was time to end, to realize, he said, that the political narrative of President Trump being that Minneapolis is so dangerous, et cetera, that it's run by Democrats, he said that is not important, not more important than American values. And he asked how many more lives, how many more people must die before this comes to a resolution.
Okay, so for people just joining us right now, federal agents in the U.S. state of Minnesota have gunned down, have killed what we have just found out to be a 37-year-old white male that police have identified but not named, who didn't have a criminal record. All he had in terms of a criminal record, and I know it doesn't qualify as a criminal record, are traffic tickets. So wasn't known to police in any significant way, or in any way at all, I should say. He was a lawful gun owner, and he had a permit to carry. This is what police are telling us. Heidi, I think some of the viewers joining us now will be thinking, what on earth is going on in Minnesota? Two people By the way, he was a U.S. citizen, I have to say. The police just confirmed that. 2 people have been killed by federal agents in the last few weeks. Before I go to my guest, Amy Koch, who's waiting for us, she knows all the context about Minnesota. She's a politician there. She's a political operative there. Before we do that, can you just remind us of the blow-by-blow of how we got to this situation, starting with the White House deciding to surge federal agents into Minnesota?
Absolutely. This has been a situation that has been bubbling acutely for the last 6 weeks. That is when this surge of ICE agents, thousands, have been sent, Border Patrol as well, to the city of Minneapolis. Why did Trump pick this as the target? Well, you can look all the way back to the George Floyd protests, and Trump has really singled out Minneapolis as a foil for what he sees wrong with Democrats, and Democrats do lead this city in a blue state that Trump, of course, lost. And so since this last month alone, you said that there have been 2 shootings that have been fatal. Absolutely. But in fact, there was also a third. That man was wounded. And the situation just continues to become more and more heated. Those rioters that are and the protesters that have showed up, DHS calls them rioters. The local mayor calls them protesters. There have been flashbangs. There has been pepper spray now released upon these people that are gathered. And I can hear what they're saying. I can sense the tension there that's gripping the city. And the question you asked, what is going on in Minneapolis? That is exactly what people even living there are asking, to see their city enveloped in this chaos.
Heidi, thank you very much for your reporting. You're watching the events unfold live in Minneapolis, as are we. We'll need to speak to you again shortly, I would imagine, but I'll let you work your sources. Thank you very much, Heidi.